Welcome to Peak, a growth sport production that explores the power of culture on organizational performance. Music by The Edge. For show notes and more information, visit our website at growth-sport.com. Now here are your hosts, Mary Claire and Dr. Brian.
Welcome back. I'm Mary Claire. Welcome to Peak, the official growth sport podcast. In today's episode, we're going to dive into the fifth key characteristic of a peak performance organization, and that is trust. We've intentionally left this characteristic for the last because, as you'll see, it's almost an outcome of all the things we've talked about to date. So we're going to do a little bit of a review as we dive into how we create trust in an organization. So a couple questions to kick us off here. Do you feel your team operates from a foundation of trust? And how would productivity improve if you didn't spend time monitoring people you didn't trust? So today we'll walk through what trust is, how to create it, the results that come from it, and then we'll connect that to the sport model as well. So Brian, thanks for joining us, sir.
So happy to be here.
All right, fifth and final for this series here. So trust, like some of the other words we talked about, I wouldn't say it's loaded per se, but it's heavy and it's meaty for a reason. So let's kick it off as we often do and just tell us how would you define trust? Because you usually have a different way of looking at the world than many folks.
Yeah, I really like the definition that the Covey organization uses in their Speed of Trust. And they take a definition that says that trust is two components. And to those two components, I'm going to add a third. So to the first one is, does the person do what they say they're going to do? So when you tell me you're going to do something, do I believe that you'll do it? That's the first part. The second component is, if you say that you're going to do something, do I believe that you have the ability to do it? And then the third part is, do I have the ability to see the evidence of what it was that you told me that you would do? If you put all three of those things together, then you can see how this trust would work. For example, if we're working together on a project and you say, I'll pick up this part of the project, then in my mind, I trust you to do what you say you're going to do, that you're capable of doing what you say you'll do, and that the evidence will show that you've done what you said that you would do. And if that happens regularly, I begin to build this trust, this feeling of secure invulnerability with you in terms of what you will accomplish. But that takes time, right? You can see that that's not one interaction. That's multiple interactions over a period.
Which is why I feel like the how you get trust is where we're going to get some even more meat from this. I like your perspective on even the definition is how you get it in some ways. So it's the expectations that result from it. And I think the addition to the evidence, so to speak, of I see that you've seen that I have done the things that I've committed to, gets to the how you get it, and which is it's not a pill you can take, and it doesn't happen overnight, right? It's right. It happens over time.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So and we've worked together now for years, and I would go back years to say, you were somebody I looked up to, and I wanted to make sure that the things I said that I was going to do, I did, to start to build that trust, to grow the relationship, right?
Right. Notice the transparency interaction there. If you'd have come to me at some point and said, hey, I'm going to do X, and even if I felt like, well, I'm not really sure she has the capability of doing that, but you get started down that, and you come to me partway through and say, hey, I'm trying to do this, but it's clear that I don't have the capability to do all of this. Yeah. That is also a mechanism of trust, right? That part is you being open about what you do and do not have the capability to do, even if you learned it in that process. Builds trust.
Okay, Brian, let's say as a leader, I'm in a situation and I have a teammate where it doesn't feel like there is that foundation of trust. What do I do?
Yeah, it's really important that you start first with a level foundation of transparency. So you need to understand when they say to you, this is what I will do. Now, again, notice their ownership. When they say, this is what I will do, and even if you have concerns over their ability to do it, make sure that you're capturing that in very transparent ways. KPAs are a great way to do this, because then you can return to it at the end of that period of time to see, A, did they get the job done? Did they do it at the level of quality that you wanted? And was there evidence that all of this happened the way that they said that it would do, that it would happen? If all of that's true, then they're starting to build trust with you, and maybe they can turn things around. If it's not, then you have a very clear foundation on which to either reprimand, make changes, whatever you need to do. But there's no questions. What you don't want is obfuscation and unclear directions and unclear performance. That just perpetuates the problem and makes the overhead even higher.
So as a leader, I need to ensure that we're fully aware. They come to me, take ownership of what they believe they need to do, presuming I've made clear at a high level from a strategic alignment or a strategic intent perspective. That's clear.
Yep.
There's clear understanding. That actually in itself, we'll get to that, builds trust. So they're clear on the goals, and they come to me with what it is they believe they need to do to accomplish that. And there's clarity that I believe they're capable of doing it. I believe, and if they don't, they come to me to tell me, hey, I'm struggling with X that I thought I could perform.
Right.
Which also builds trust.
Right.
And then over the course of that time period together, they'll get trust from me that I will help them if they need it. And I'm seeing that they're doing the things they committed to doing.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, even being very transparent about, if you can't do this, I'm here to help. There's no excuse for you to get to the end of this period of time not having accomplished this work that you said you would do. If for some reason it's not going well, I need to hear about it before the end of that period. That also creates trust.
Again, and we said this from the beginning, and everything kind of ties together, but that weekly game review or accountability meeting that we're level setting, the system in and of itself should present that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we've talked about kind of what it is. We took a Coveyism, so to speak, and added a third in terms of expecting. We know what somebody's going to do. They have the capability of doing it, and then there's evidence that they get it done. And that's where kind of our accountability meeting comes into place. And to be clear, I'm doing, as a leader from a trust perspective, in that same meeting, I'm committing to things. And
Correct.
I have to come to the table and say I did it or didn't.
That's right.
So again, the system still, it creates and fosters the trust. Okay. Are there any other elements in terms of how we want to get it? I know that it takes time and the consistency of that. I'd love to get into that element. That's a little bit more of the heart and soul of trust. That's key for leaders to know in terms of developing a culture of trust, is just the iteration or the commitment over time.
Right. I think there are two components to this that are really important. The first part is the one you just mentioned, is being consistent. And trust is a very interesting thing because it takes time. It's not just one interaction, it's multiple interactions. It's relationship building from these interactions. It's my belief that you can and will do and provide evidence for what you say that you're going to do. But another key component of trust is that because it's a relationship, it's not unidirectional. It can't just be me trusting you. It has to be you trusting me.
Yeah.
So to your point, the vulnerability goes both ways, where you as a leader also have to be willing to help me in my growth and my progress and progression. And I have to be willing to provide for you the things that you're looking for in the same way. So that relationship is bidirectional. It's consistent over time, and it's bidirectional.
I think the last thing I would add, and as a leader, I spent a lot of time thinking about and was intentional about, I was never perfect, but it starts with me doing the things that allow my teammates to trust me. So
correct.
It starts at the top is the short answer.
I love that, because obviously if you're not trustworthy, how can you expect others to be trustworthy? I mean, like most of the principles that we go over, this all stems from the leadership at the top. This really is about leadership. And then it moves throughout the organization and it imitates the leader based on their willingness to apply these principles.
And I think if trust is broken, the willingness to say, my bad, I screwed up, mea culpa. Like I recognize this. This is what happened. I take responsibility. Here's the plan of action moving forward. But that idea of taking responsibility, I think, is key for leaders as well to maintain that trust, because nobody's going to be perfect.
Agreed. Agree 100%. So. But again, that also builds trust. Notice when we, in humility, accept the mistakes, that then tells our people, oh, that wasn't intentional. And we give grace to each other based on our experiences. Like our relationship together is long enough that if you did something that I wasn't expecting, and it wasn't what I thought you said you would do, my first inclination is not she was trying to, pull one over on me. My first inclination is, oh, there was a mistake. I misunderstood, or there was
Assuming
something else that happened that was beyond her control. And because I know from our experience that if you were cognizant of this or aware of it, that you would have already addressed it. You would have said something about it. So that relationship builds opportunities for us to keep building trust even when we screw up.
Yep. Okay. So, so we know what it is. We know how to get it. And the results that we can expect may kind of bleed into leveraging this or how to get it through the sport model. But I think one of the things that I love that kind of gets me giddy about trust is that it creates speed.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
You can just go.
Yeah, you absolutely does.
And I mentioned an experience that I'm having right now with an organization where it feels like we're doing circles because at the end of the day, there's not that basis of trust. And when you're in a meeting, meetings are kind of painful because I don't think anybody's necessarily assuming the best. But then one thing we haven't talked about, without that trust, you can't have transparent conversations and ask vulnerable questions because you're not sure how it's going to land. So then people start dancing as opposed to just having a conversation and making a decision. There's so many elements to trust that create speed or remove speed from the table because you don't have that element of trust. How you would respond to that?
Look, I'm an economist, so I'm constantly looking for things around productivity, things that encourage efficiency and effectiveness. And what happens when you don't have trust is you just create a layer of overhead, and it's unproductive overhead. It's verification overhead. And the idea is that if you don't have trust, then I constantly have to check up on you. I constantly have to just watch what you're doing, and that's exhausting.
Or wonder, and I'm not checking up, but I sit around and wonder, is that thing getting done? And
Totally.
at 2 a.m., I'm worried about blank.
Well, and you can see in its worst form, as you were talking about it, it's literally a roadblock. It literally just stops progress. But even if you're getting progress, that overhead just slows everything down. It's just a dead weight loss. If I don't have to check up and I trust that things are happening, and if they're not going to happen, I trust you're going to come to me, I can take my energy and put it someplace else. And here's the real key. Everything we do is about the energy we apply to the problem we're trying to solve. So if I've got 100% of my energy and I can apply all of it to the problem, I'm going to solve that problem and make progress much quicker than if I can only apply 50%.
Yeah.
If 50% of my energy is off over here doing something else and 50% is here, then that's just going to take me more time.
So the same equation applies. I'm just going to invert it for leaders out there. So having been a leader, if I am not trustworthy, the same applies for the folks that report to me or the organization. If they don't believe I'm going to deliver in ways that impact their ability to deliver, think about the cycles they're running through and the hurdles they have. Instead of thinking about how to solve the problem, I need to think about how to solve the problem. And if A or B or C doesn't do their job, then how do I cover to make sure that we still solve the problem, we still get the thing done. Just energy is wasted everywhere.
And it's an exponential problem too. It's not an additive problem. In other words, the more of these that exist, the harder it is on an exponential scale to get anything done, because everyone's checking everybody over everyone's shoulders to make sure everything is going, and then nothing gets done. And so everything just grinds to a halt.
I don't wish that upon anybody, because when you're leading an organization, it's like having another family, right? And you put that level of, there's a certain level of emotional energy that you invest to ensure that the culture is right, particularly from a trust perspective. And when it's not, that emotional energy, if it's not there, you said it earlier, it's a drain. It just drains everybody.
It's right.
Which takes away from the ability to be productive. So, okay, Brian, trust to me is an outcome of implementing the sport model, because when you go through each letter, the overall process and the kind of the micro processes within, it creates trust. But we'd love to get your perspective on the link between the sport model and trust.
I think that's exactly right. And it's an important observation because, again, trust is a product of process. And if you just go through each one of these steps, if in the first place, I get strategically aligned so that, let's say that you're the CEO and I'm the team member and you go through a process of strategic alignment with me. Okay, well, now I know where the organization is going. So my trust improves because there's no surprises, right? I'm not blindsided. And then the other part that's really interesting is once we get strategically aligned, I know where I fit in that. So I start to understand what my role needs to be, what I need to be capable of doing, which moves right into P. So now I can be like, what things do I need to improve? What skills do I need to acquire? What abilities do I need to have in order so that when I say to you as my leader, I can get this done, you can trust me that I can get that done. And then I can move right into O with the operations of actually doing the work. What are the processes? How do we get this work done? And it's transparent. Everybody understands what everybody's doing and how it's working. And then we move into R, which is the accountability component of this. And every week I'm saying, these are the steps I'm taking to get to our goals. These are the processes I'm implementing. I know that this is the direction that I'm headed so that we can have all three components. I trust that they're capable, and I can see the evidence when it gets done. And then the T really is a feedback mechanism on the whole thing, which now let's improve everything and let's go to the next level altogether.
Okay, Brian, again, this whole series has been super healthy in terms of talking about culture. And again, I think one of the things I appreciate about you is that you have a slightly different perspective on the world than maybe traditional academic business books and such. So as we wind down here, is there anything else about trust that you think it's important for leaders to know as they're building cultures of peak performance?
Yeah, I think two things that I'd like to emphasize. First, all of these topics, all of these concepts are tightly intertwined. You can't get trust without transparency.
Yeah.
You can't get accountability without trust. These things are tightly woven together. And as you mentioned, it's really leadership. This is really a course on great leadership, and leadership, as we've talked about so often, stems from implementing a known process and really getting to a point where people can expect and get what they expect and have that happen. So I think those are the biggest things. And the final point I would make is that trust is something that takes a long time to get and can be destroyed in a very short period of time. If you're not cognizant of doing what you say you're going to do and or fixing the problems as they arise in a transparent way, you just risk creating an environment where all of that hard work in that relationship is ruined. And you and I and everyone, I think, has had an experience where you thought you could trust somebody.
Yeah.
Might have been a friend, might have been an organization, might have been a church. And somewhere along the way, somebody betrayed your trust.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get back. I mean, whether this is a case of infidelity in a relationship, all the way to a friend not doing what they said they were going to do, to a leader not following through. When that happens, it's just very hard to recover. So be aware. Be very careful.
Yeah. The last thing I would say, and I'm just reiterating, it's kind of a joke in terms of we need like a bumper sticker, but there's power in process because
that's right.
I mean,
we need a sticker.
Yeah, we need a bumper sticker. I mean, to be tongue in cheek here after talking about some heavy experiences that people have, but there's power in process, whether it's a marriage or a business, right?
That's right. Well said.
Well, Brian, thanks again for joining us both today and on this series. It is always an absolute pleasure to talk with you, and I always learn something new, even though we've had these conversations many other times. I hear something new to take away. So thank you. Thank you to all of our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please like or follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, we hope your drive towards peak performance is successful. Talk to you soon.
You've been listening to Peak, a Growth Sport production.